I'm going to show you how to get the worm castings out of your worm bin and then turn them into compost tea. Couple of things. If you don't already have worm bins sitting in your pantry, then you're going to need one because you can't just make this with stuff from your backyard. If you don't already have a worm bin setup, I'll make another one in a different video and show you how easy it is to not throw out a bunch of trash and instead feed it to your worms, which make great pets because they live back here and I never have to feed them or water them except when I throw out my trash. So we're going to dig right into here and see what we've got. I've got on big rubber gloves. Some people like to just put their hands right in there. To each their own. So on the top of the worm bin is going to be the material that I've most recently added. And while the worms are going to be eating that, that's not the stuff that I want to collect. So we're going to reach way down into the bottom here. And as you can kind of see here, the further down you go, the fewer worms there's going to be, and the less fresh material there is as well. So you'll start seeing a lot more of material that looks just like really rich, dark dirt, and that's what you're after. I will say that there's going to be some worms in there, but that's okay because we'll sort them out later. So I'm just taking this material by the handful and putting it in my 5-gallon bucket and trying to grab the material that looks the most eaten and pull out the little bits of newspaper and stuff like that, because you'll have to sort it out anyway, so you might as well do it now. Good. As you're digging into the bottom of your bin, you should not have a ton of water. It should be more like damp, but definitely not any standing water. If there is standing water, you need to get some newspaper in there right away and let that soak up some of that excess moisture. Now that you've taken out a lot of the bottom stuff here, you've made a lot more room in your worm bin. So you can just keep adding to it more stuff. Surprisingly, this does not smell. It smells more like if you were to dig a hole in the ground after it had just rained. So I'm not holding my nose, there's not flies running all over the place. You'll find that there are going to be some materials that don't want to break down. Specifically, any of those old Sunchip bags that you may have thought, oh, the worms will eat those. They won't. Those are only decomposable when they're exposed to UV rays. So I've had one in here for almost 2 years now, and there it is. You can still kind of read it. You know exactly what it is, and it's super loud as soon as your hand touches it, so you don't want to put those in there. I put wine corks in here because they are biodegradable, but they take forever to break down in here. They also take forever to break down in my compost bin, but So now that this is all back together, I'm going to take my 5 gallons of worms and their castings back into the house and spread them out and pick through the worms and get out some really great looking casting. So here we are in the kitchen, and I've got about 2 gallons and a 5-gallon bucket of worms and worm castings. I've spread thick plastic down all over the floor, so this way I can see what I'm doing and I'm not getting the floor super disgusting. I'm going to dump this all out, and then the worms are going to go back in the bucket. Castings are going to stay here on the plastic sheeting, and that way I can just pull the whole sheet out and set it out to dry and make sure that no other worms are hiding in there, because I don't want them in there for this part. This part I'm not going to wear gloves for because it's not like they're really getting in there doing stuff. This is more like picking dainty stuff. But you can totally wear gloves for this part too. That's fine. No judging. So here we are on the kitchen floor. We just emptied out this bucket. So we've got all these worms here. And then here comes a cat. Hey, kitten. Yes, Dr. Oliver Snotty. The key thing when you're going through this is to make sure you get out all the big pieces and all the worms. You don't want any worms still in here because you don't want to end up drowning your worms later. So we're just going to pick through this and put the worms back in the bucket so they can go back into their super great luxury living in the pantry. So things like wood chips, out, worms, back in the bucket. Once this is dry, you can certainly put it through a screen, but it doesn't work so well putting wet material through a screen. The thing with worms is that they don't like the light, so they're going to keep heading further into this pile, making it harder for you to find them. Yeah, sing it! So this little thing here that's on the tip of my finger is a worm egg. From this are going to hatch a bunch of little worms, and you don't want those in your worm tea, so put it back in the bucket with the rest of the stuff.